Hey, it's Wednesday, and it is July 2nd, just before the holiday. You're into the Rise and Grind morning show this morning. I'm Will Rock. I'll be your host today, along with Riley and Eric this morning. So Eric's going to kick us off, get straight into the topics. But before we do us a quick favor. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see you guys be part of the membership. We just released some more raffles on Buy Me a Coffee. Last night, we're going to be doing Jahmyr Gibbs jersey, the Zero, which have also just been released by the NFL. And then as well as that, we're going to be doing Aiden Hutchinson. And then I've got some requests about the Rockhound jerseys. So we will be selling the jerseys, and then we'll also be doing giveaways and raffles for the jerseys. I want to see some people at training camp with these things on. So those will all be in the Buy Me a Coffee /Rocked On site today for your raffles. Everything, all the proceeds, of course, goes to Rocked On Cancer Foundation. Let's get it kicked off, man. We got a full boat this morning, and I doubt we're going to get to them all, but we'll have some fun with it as we do every day. We'll be right back here in about 15 seconds, and Eric's going to get us kicked off. Good morning.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2. Hey yo, AC. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 The podcast.
Shout out to Rockhound Detroit Lions, man. My pride.
All right, so here we go. First topic that we're going to be coming up with today, I believe Eric is going to be talking about the trade that happened last night, and whatever else he talks about, I'll be back in just a few moments. But here's Riley and Eric kicking us off this morning. As soon as I can find the scene. All right. Well, let's do this. I don't know what just happened to that scene I created. So good morning, gentlemen.
There we go. How you guys doing?
Oh, he got minimized. We're back. I got it. So anyway, Eric, kick us off this morning. I'll be back in just a few moments.
Okay, so last night a trade went down, and this trade went down with a player that I thought we were never going to see in the NFL again. It's a player that went through absolute hell with addiction. We thought he was done. We thought he was gone. And then he came back, and he was I'm pretty sure he was comeback player of the year one time, and he played for the New York Giants, and he retired with the New York Giants. But on Tuesday morning, the New York Giants left the football world stunned with their recent roster move. A little over a year since announcing his retirement, tight end Darren Waller is returning to football, and he's being dealt to the Miami Dolphins. Get that. Waller, a sixth-round pick in 2015, developed into one of the NFL's top tight ends just a few years ago. His best individual season came in 2020 with the Las Vegas Raiders. Waller landed the only Pro Bowl nod of his career after racking up 1,200 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns as a tight end. After establishing himself with the Raiders, the Giants decided to trade for the veteran tight end in March of 2023. They viewed him as someone who could be a focal point in the offense, but they didn't pan out that way. Waller ended up playing one full season for the Giants, totaling 552 yards and 1 touchdown in 12 appearances. Following his first year in New York, he opened up on dealing with various health issues and decided to step away from professional football. Fast forward to yesterday, and Waller appears in a position to make a return to the NFL. Per ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Giants are dealing him to the Dolphins for a future 6th-round draft pick. In a following move, Waller will be signing a 1-year deal with Miami worth $5 million. So he's coming on the cheap. In the reporting of the trade, they dove more into Waller deciding to come out of retirement this season. The now ex-Giants tight end had told people close to him that he missed the game and he wanted to get back out on the field. Waller told people that he was returning for the love of the game, and now he's heading to the Dolphins. For the Dolphins, this comes on the heels of making a pair of blockbuster deals. They recently had a void to fill at tight end because of the opening to send Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Miami will now attempt to replace him with a returning Darren Waller. So, Riley, what do you think about Darren Waller going to Miami to replace Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, I mean, you come out of retirement, make what was it, $5 million he's going to make, and you get to go play in Miami. That's not a bad situation, man. To be, in a situation where you said, you know what, that's it. I think I still got my cleats somewhere around here somewhere. I should be able to get some pads and go make a cool $5 million in South Beach. Not a bad situation, but yeah, I was really surprised to see it. But cool, man. Good for him. Hope he has a good season in Miami. And I don't think the Lions play the Dolphins, so he can have as good of a year as he wants to have. It won't affect us at all.
Yeah. We won't be seeing Mr. Waller this year.
But all right, I'm back. So I just got the tail end of that.
Yep.
Talking about Waller. So yeah, he did struggle with the addiction and things like that. And it was pretty public that, he went through that, came out on the other side okay. He had one or two good seasons, I think, and
one good season where he had 1,200 yards. What did they say? 10 touchdowns, and
what year was that?
That was 2020.
It was 2020, and so he took last year off, right?
Yep, took last year off.
I don't understand this move. Why would you trade a 6th round pick for Darren Waller to come out of retirement at 33, 34 years old?
Yeah.
He really only had one good season, I think what we were just saying. And now he's going to the Dolphins, but 6th round picks were getting traded this spring for players that are active.
Yep.
I mean, maybe a 7th round pick, because that's the lowest of the lowest that you can give. And maybe a 2027 7th round pick is probably what I would have traded for Darren Waller. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. $5 million for a guy that was retired, that hasn't played football in a year. Who was I thinking about last night? There was, goodness, I can't remember his name, but there was a player that came out of retirement like 2 or 3 years ago and went through spring and then was like, yeah, after taking a year off, this just isn't for me, and hung it up, right? And then did it again the next year. The Falcons, I can't remember his name. He was a defensive lineman. The Falcons coaxed him to come out of retirement again, and then he's stuck around, I think, the 3rd time of trying this. But and he's still playing today. I can't remember his name. But I guess the whole point is, man, it's got to be tough to come out of retirement. Just like I'm sure it's tough that when you step away from a podcast for a few weeks, it's probably tough to get back into the swing of things, right? It's just got to be hard doing anything like that in life where you take a lot of time away. But I mean, good for him. Like Riley said, you're getting $5 million to go suit up in South Beach. That's not a bad gig, but it's got to be hotter than Hades down there right now. Like when I was down there for graduation, it was insanely hot. It's been insanely hot here the last week and a half. And it still didn't touch how hot it was down there in May. It's nuts. So,
well, I'll say this. I haven't been to Florida in years and years and years. And I don't remember ever going to Miami. But my best friend from high school, he was my best man in my wedding, everything. I'm sitting in my front yard the other day, and I go to pull out my truck to go get a car wash, right? Well, he pulls in behind me and blocks me in. And I'm like, who's this idiot blocking me in? And it's my best friend from high school, best man for my wedding, right? And he 10 years ago moved down to Florida, and he's living kind of down near Orlando, and so north of Orlando a little bit. And he was saying that he can't even go to Miami. He said it's so dangerous, and it's all Spanish speaking people. If you don't know Spanish, then you might as well not even go to Miami, he was saying. So I don't know as I want to go to Miami.
Miami's not, I mean, it's not all Spanish. There's a lot of Spanish speaking people everywhere, but yeah, I mean, there's a heavy Latin presence down there. And honestly, I think that's what makes Miami so great. I mean, the vibes down there are just spectacular, beaches are wonderful. Restaurants are amazing. Yeah. Obviously everything's super expensive, but yeah, you don't have to. Yeah. I get what he's saying. But I wouldn't, I guess I would. I've never had that experience down there, I guess. Anyway, I guess I'm going to show people how
Hey,
to.
there's something in the chat that we need to say. So Hassanin Mahdi, Ahmad Hassanin's dad is in the chat. And he says, "Good morning, my dear friends, and all watching Rocked On Detroit Lions. I'm happy to pronounce that my son Ahmad Hassanin is getting married soon before the training camp. Please wish him good luck. Good luck and congratulations, Ahmed."
Yeah, we heard about that, about a month or so ago when Corey was on, that Ahmed wanted to get married before training camp. I won't go into the details as to why. I don't remember if Corey shared, but I'm not going to share it. But it is awesome, man, to be able to, day one, the guy gets drafted to the NFL, and what does he do? He makes the day all about his soon-to-be wife because he got engaged that day too. So you get drafted to the NFL, you get engaged on the best day of your life. Now you've got 2 best days all in one, and just a couple of months later, he's gonna get it done. He's gonna get married, and that's gonna be great for him to have some permanent company, hopefully with him in Detroit, and it'll make, let's just say this, it'll probably make it a lot easier on him to have a support system around him outside of the friends and the coaching staff that he's already created around him. So that's awesome. And thank you for being in the show this morning, Mr. Mahdi. Appreciate you guys always. So good morning. It's really good morning, early morning, I think, to you this morning. So anyway, what was I going to say? I wanted to show people how to get into Rocked On's website, which I've got to change this banner. Go ahead.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Where can I order a Rocked On jersey? I want to get one.
That's what I'm trying to show people right now.
All right, perfect.
So
Rolling out the red carpet.
yeah, let me show you guys how to do this here, just in case you don't know how to do it already. Just got to bring in a source here.
For anyone wondering, my Broderick Martin jersey will be here today.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were talking about that Monday, right? So it's got an ETA today.
Of course, I had to get a new JMO jersey and a new Gibbs jersey because they switched numbers. I didn't get a Terrion Arnold one yet, but he's coming next.
Yeah, you go through the whole.
I gotta get me a Rocked On jersey though. I gotta have one of those.
So here's the thing. There is a big sale going on right now at the Detroit Lions Supply. So it's DetroitLions.com, I think, /Lion Supply. It's a Fanatic store. And if you use the code STARS40, so STARS 40, you can get 40% off right now on the Detroit Lions Fanatics website. And that's jerseys. They even have some of the old Jahmyr Gibbs jerseys right now for like $65. So even if you want one of the old ones, one of his original jerseys, you can get a pretty good deal on it. So anything that it's obviously the old numbers, they're going to clearance those items out and get rid of them. But if you want to get something even more special, then you guys need to go visit Pro Sports Zone in Livonia and go visit John Yu. As I mentioned yesterday, I think in a post, or I might have mentioned it to a few people during the show yesterday, if you want a jersey, all of your jerseys are being shipped out today. John Yu's taking care of it right now. So you should have your jerseys momentarily next week or so, probably 5, 6. We got a holiday, so could slow it down. And then there was one other jersey I had to order special through the website because nobody has Jahmyr Gibbs jerseys in stock yet. So it's only available through the Detroit Lions Supply or any other, formal site. So all right, let me show you guys how to do this here. I still can't believe you ordered a Broderick Martin, but that's cool.
I did.
Got to support the guy.
But you know what? He only had blue, and I had to figure out what jersey number he was wearing. And
99, right?
Yeah, because he switched back because he had sold it last year for I think $5,000 to Zadarius Smith for the rest of the season, and then he took it back once Zadarius was no longer on the team back in April.
All right, let's see if he holds on to it, makes the squad, right? All right, so here's how you guys can get to the Rocked On Cancer Foundation if you want to donate, if you want to get involved in any of the raffles. It's pretty simple, but I know a lot of people struggle with these links because they're kind of long. I'm going to try to do something about that.
Hey, we have someone in the chat.
Were you going to finish your thought, or did I just cut you off? I think I just cut Eric off. So this is the Rockhound Cancer Foundation sheet or website, if you will. It is just simply buymeacoffee, spelled out, .com/Rockdown, ROCKEDON. If you type that into your browser, it'll pull up this sheet. Okay, it'll show you how much we've raised recently, which is a little over $5,200. Our goal is $50,000 this year. And if you go to the shop up here on the top right, which you can't see, so let me fix that. All right, so you got these tabs up top. Up here on the right, it says shop right here. You hit the shop. It'll pull up what we're doing. These are the most recent things that we're doing right now. So you've got the Gibbs jersey. You've got the Aiden jersey. You can donate to Rockhound Cancer Foundation. Of course, you can buy your hip-hop hat, what I'm wearing this morning. If you are a member of our channel here on YouTube, you will pay less for the raffle tickets. But unfortunately, you're not a member of Buy Me a Coffee yet. Now, a lot of the memberships are going to change. They're going to transfer to Buy Me a Coffee, and then we're going to do something different with YouTube. You won't lose, how much time you've put in already, but the dollar amount's going to change just to reflect, the different tiers. The thing that I want to point out here is, see how it says $7.50 for members? So if you spend $15, you'll get 2. And I just have to do it manually on the backside for right now, if you're a member. If you spend $10 and you're not a member, you get 1 raffle ticket. We up the price because we usually get, 20, 30 people jumping into this, but we've got to get to our reserve. So you don't have to buy as many tickets. You buy less, but you're still going to have the same amount of chances. So that's how you get to it, right? If you want to read, about what this is all about, the first page will tell you all about it. If you want to join a coffee club, you can join a coffee club. Some of that stuff's going to change as well, but just so you know how it works. Memberships are not completed, so do not join anything just yet. I'll probably just have to remove those today, and I definitely got to change this banner. I don't know why that banner is so terrible. But let me jump back into the. Here we go. What were you saying? I cut you off there.
Oh, I was just saying that there's somebody named Darius Smith in the chat. And I think it's somebody that just took the Z and the A and cut it off the beginning of their first name. And he's in the chat watching.
So Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, he might be in the chat. Yeah.
Well, good morning, Zadarius Smith. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. But that'd be kind of cool if it was him. Let's get into the next topic. So anyway, thank you guys for obliging me on kind of going through.
Yeah. So how do we order one of the Rockhound jerseys?
Those are going to be added today. Now, Now here's the thing. If you order one before, well, that's not going to work either. I was going to say, if you were to order one before the 4th, then you could probably take advantage of that 40% off. I mean, you could essentially make your own if you wanted to, but we're going to be selling them on the site, and then they're going to come to me, and I'm going to autograph it so that you know that it's a legit one. Anybody can make one, but I want to autograph it, and I want to put a special pin on it so that it's yours. It came from the show. They're all going to be numbered. We're not going to screw around with it. Not that they mean anything, but they mean something to us, right? They don't mean anything to anybody else in the world, but they mean something to us. So the people that, rock the jerseys, we appreciate you, because anything that we make, above and beyond the normal price of a jersey will go to the Rockhound Cancer Foundation. That's what it's all about. So that'll be updated today.
Awesome. I'll buy one today.
So no free lunch, right? No free lunch. That's today's headline because of Indomitian Sue. And I thought this was great. I thought this was just a really good topic to talk about with, a former player that was so darn polarizing in Detroit. One of the best guys, one of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game, and definitely left a pretty memorable mark in a few games. I think that the Packers game really stood out. There's a couple of extra stomps in that game. So Indomitian Sue, he wants you to learn how the sharpest minds in sports manage their money. And this has been a topic for many, many, many decades now of players. They make all this money and they end up broke. a lot of them end up claiming bankruptcy or filing bankruptcy. How do these players go from making 10, 20, 30 million dollars in a season, even $1, $2, or $3 million in a season, end up broke? Well, I think 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, I don't think that these guys were given the resources that they have now. They weren't given an opportunity to learn about money management. I think agencies were more about themselves and managing their money. They didn't care about the player. And that's all changed. The collective bargaining agreement does, like they have some training and things that they put these players through. It's all part of the process now in the NFL to get these guys set up with a way to manage their money. But Ndamukong Suh has taken it to a different level, if you will. Played 13 years in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, and now he has a new show called No Free Lunch on anywhere you can find, or anywhere where you enjoy your podcast, you'll be able to find it. I'll drop this link in the chat, but if you don't have an athletic membership, you won't be able to pull it up. So he says, I know what you're going. He says, I know you think you know who I am, but you're wrong. So if I were to say, Riley, who do you think Ndamukong Suh is, without reading anything from the article, what's the picture that comes into your mind?
A brash, abrasive, very aggressive, pompous, arrogant, mean-spirited individual.
Perfect. Eric, what would you say?
Oh, yeah. One of the craziest players to ever do it.
One of the craziest, one of the best, right?
Yep. Yeah, that as well. The old foot stomp against Green Bay. Oh, yeah.
So you probably wouldn't, attribute his play on the field with somebody that can handle everything off the field. Maybe. I would never put a label on somebody, but it's the exact opposite. Here's what he said. He said, the way I was on the football field was just the way I had to be successful. But I always wanted to be different from my peers. I never wanted to be known just for football. So it became a personal tagline of mine. I want to be more successful off the field than on it. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great way, part of managing life. I think the most important part of managing life is mindset, right? So his mindset was, I have to be successful on the field. I've got to step into this character, and that's who I am. Off the field, I've got to step into a different character, and that's who I am. And that's what he did. So he says, when I played in the NFL, I love to read contracts. Now, I don't know anyone that loves to read contracts because I think they're boring as all get out. Yep. But he says at first, the reason was straightforward. I wasn't happy with my rookie deal. What? He wasn't happy with his amazing deal with the Lions? And I wanted to know what I was signing. I wanted to understand the details. But this practical interest blossomed into something more for Ndamukong Suh. He said he started reading all of the contracts of all of the defensive linemen, so he knew what his peers were doing as well. He says that's just good negotiation knowledge that spilled over into his other passion, which is his business world, and he started devouring real estate contracts and venture capital deals. He says, I actually enjoyed reading contracts. I still do. It's fulfilling, and it's knowledge. It gives me my why. So he says, let me give you another why. Why am I launching a new sports and business show called No Free Lunch with The Athletic? It's simple. I've had opportunities to do podcasts with other places, but I've always prided myself on working with the best. That is what The Athletic is. Throughout my NFL career, when I wasn't sacking your favorite quarterback, I was networking with some of the sharpest business minds in the world. That led me to build a real estate portfolio, step into investing, and become an advocate for financial literacy. So No Free Lunch will look at personal finance through the lens of sports and business. Each week, I'll sit down with athletes, entrepreneurs, and executives to talk about how the most successful people in sports manage their money and grow their wealth. I never expected this from somebody like Suh. But just like how I never expected this from somebody that played basketball, that one of the largest personalities, Shaq. Shaq is probably one of the most influential business people in the world. I'm hoping that he interviews Shaq or has Shaq on at some point. The dude's a billionaire, And he's got his hands in like 300 companies. That's smart business, right? That's taking what you're making and turning it into something better for your future, for your family's future. Generations of his family are set if he decides to go that way and provide for them. Some billionaires don't do that. They don't give their family anything. I made it all on my own back. You got to do the same is the mentality. So he says that there are so many similarities between the business world and sports, the determination it takes to make it as a pro, and the commitment to hard work and the willingness to learn are all the traits that I have transferred over to my business life. There's something else. Growing up, I played soccer. I didn't start playing organized football until I was in 8th grade. And even then, I didn't really start playing until my sophomore year in high school. I was awarded a scholarship to Nebraska simply because of my potential, not because I knew how to play football. At that time, I didn't know the difference between 11 or 12 personnel or X and Y receivers. I barely knew anything. By my senior year of college, I finished 4th in voting for the Heisman Trophy, and then the Lions drafted me 2nd overall. I played 13 years in the NFL. His point, my football knowledge was an evolution. There's that word again. You guys know what evolution means to me, right? That was last year. That was the Detroit Lions, 2024. Evolution. So he goes on to say that he hates it when athletes talk this way about business world. I don't know this. I can't do that. It's too difficult. I'm not educated enough in this space. He says that doesn't make sense to me. Were you educated when you first started? Were you educated when you first started in your sport? No. Did you know exactly how to play it? No. Or was it an evolution? Another great statement by Ndamukong Suh. He goes on to say in this article that he met Mr. Buffett, right? A lot of us know who Mr. Buffett is. And during his senior year at Nebraska is when this happened. He said, my interest in business had matured in college. Joe Maglia was one of my assistant coaches in Nebraska. He was also the former chairman of the board and former CEO of TD Ameritrade. He was the first person to show me what a real life budget for someone looked like. And I loved it. So the moral of this story is, one, you can never judge a book by its cover, right? I hope people don't do that. I know it's not easy. It is what it is. But Ndamukong Suh has turned out to be a very influential human, very successful football player, and now investor, money manager, real estate investor. I mean, the guy has it all, and now a new podcast to learn. I'm going to dive into this show. I can't wait to listen to more and see who he brings in. So thoughts by you guys. We'll start with you, Eric.
Yeah, you knew he was a shrewd businessman because as soon as he was eligible to get a new contract with the Detroit Lions, what did he do? He went and signed an $80 million contract with the Miami Dolphins. So he knew what he was doing. And if you remember at the time when he signed that contract with Miami, that was for some of the most guaranteed money that had ever been given to a defensive lineman ever. And he was very, very shrewd when it came to money. And I remember watching, it was kind of like a Inside the Den thing way back in the day when Sue was still with us. And it showed his incredible workouts that he would do, right? And then it was talking to him afterward in an interview, and he was talking about financial stuff. So I kind of knew a little bit about some of this stuff. And that was back when he was trying to get his deal with Miami, when he was the free agent there for a year. And he was talking contract stuff back then and how he was taking care of a lot of it. And so I kind of knew a little bit about this, but I didn't know he had a podcast, and I didn't know he was quite as successful as he has been.
Yeah, he's knocked it out of the park. Riley, what do you think?
Yeah, to me, it comes to mind the difference between personal ego and performance ego. I like that you say, Will, too, that, that it's you don't want to judge somebody, you don't want to judge a book by its cover. Because, you wouldn't think Ndamukong Suh would, just based on the way he played and carried himself, that he would be interested in anything other than just, hurting other people and lifting weights and just, being an alpha male. But it's awesome to see. And I like to always give professional athletes and really everyday people, everybody, a benefit of the doubt and understand that there's unique things about everybody, really. So somebody like Ndamukong Suh, it's really cool to see. When I think of him, I think of the stomp against Green Bay, but I also think of, the shot he took against Stafford in the Rams-Bucks game, and they were asking Stafford after the game, like, does he not like you? Are you guys not friends? And he's like, Stafford said, I thought we were, but I do remember he was pretty upset that Stafford was making more than him, and the Lions told him, like, well, we can't pay you more than the quarterback. But yeah,
right?
it's just crazy stuff. But he was an awesome player, man, and I was devastated as however old I was at the time, 24-year-old kid at the time when he goes to Miami. And, I was so sad because I think, what was it, the year after Calvin retired? So we were losing these guys in quick succession. Yeah, I mean, cool to see for Ndamukong Suh. And I'm glad you found that, Will, because I honestly had no idea that this was happening.
Well, there's something else that I just found that I noticed from the chat too, that if you want to learn more about finances and I guess get more of an inside edge into your financial, spirituality, it's right here. And it's available on barnesandnoble.com. It's only $2.99 right now. It's an ebook called Financial Spirituality by Bill Rowland, who is one of our chat members. So one of the audience members. And Bill, I appreciate you being part of Rockhound Detroit Lions. So here you go. You guys can support Bill. It's $2.99. Get the book, add it to your cart today, and read it. Maybe at some point we'll take a look at it together. But I don't want to give you the goods and not allow Bill to sell some books. So maybe we'll give some away at some point. And appreciate it, Bill. Thank you for sharing that this morning. All right, what's up next? I don't know. Let's take a look. What's up next? So no free lunch is done. How about the fantasy football cheat sheet? It's already 8:44. We got a hard stop at 9. Don't let me forget. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you guys today. 313-312-0348. That's 313-312-0348. We want to hear from you guys. We're going to do that right at the power hour, which is 9 a.m., and we're going to leave the phone lines open for 15 minutes today from 9 to 9:15. And so if you do call in,
you wouldn't think Ndamukong Suh would, just based on the way he played and carried himself, he would be interested in.
My phone's playing stuff.
Sounded like a familiar voice.
Yeah, I got to turn that off.
This is, I think, Will, you said fantasy football cheat sheet was what we were leading into next. I'm excited for this one just from our conversation before we even started this morning.
Yeah, so the fantasy football cheat sheet, obviously, if you're a fantasy football player, there's a lot that goes into this. There's a ton. Now, I quit playing fantasy football for a few years. I dabbled my toes in it a little bit last year. We will restart the Rockhound Fantasy League. We're going to do it early, like July early. I'm going to have everything in place so that once the 53-man rosters are done, and you probably don't even need the 53-man rosters to pick your team, you'll be able to select your team. There will be donations, obviously, that are gonna for you to join, and all of that will go to end of the year awards, and then some of it will also go to the Rockhound Cancer Foundation. But the fantasy football cheat sheet. Let me ask you guys right now: who is the number one running back on your fantasy team? I'd love to know in the comments below. I'd love to know, obviously, in the chat right now, who would be your number one running back if you were to pick a team today. Eric, who would be your number one?
I'll tell you this. If I had the number one pick in the league, I would take Jahmyr Gibbs all day and twice on Sunday. I'm telling you what, the kid is electric. I don't care if he shares a backfield or not. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is the absolute number one in fantasy football. He catches the ball out of the backfield. I think he's going to do it even more this year. And when he gets the ball in space, man, watch out. He's gone. And the kid scores more touchdowns and more fantasy points than anybody else. So as far as I'm concerned, Jahmyr Gibbs is the number one overall pick for fantasy football this year.
2 years in the league. And Jahmyr Gibbs has obviously risen to the top of your depth chart, right? You would think. This is what who wrote this again? It's on PFF. This blew me away when I read this because it is so wrong. It says Jahmyr Gibbs comes in at number 2. Now, this is number 2 on the entire sheet. Now, that makes sense that he's up at the top. For running backs, for me, he would be number one. Riley, I know that we discussed this prior to the show. I assumed that he would have been number one for you too. Even if you weren't a Lions fan, I assumed that he would be number one. Looks like our date's wrong on today's show in this scene. And nobody caught it. So, Riley, is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. The only way I would take anybody else, it would be Saquon, and I'd have to be an Eagles fan because it is fun to have guys on your team. But even taking the fandom side out of it, Gibbs is. We saw what he did against Minnesota last year. We saw what he did when Montgomery went out, and I think, like Eric said too, even if he doesn't have the shared workload all season this year, or if he does have the shared workload, either way, I mean, you're getting amazing production, both receiving and running from him.
See that? I think right there, kind of what you said, it's the hardest part of drafting fantasy is taking your fandom out of the equation. You'd almost have to draft blind. And what I mean by that is if you had a mask on your eyes and someone was spitting stats to you, hey, in 2024, this individual had, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 30 catches, 500 yards. You wouldn't be drafting your hometown team, right? Your hometown players. Let's put it that way. You'd be drafting what makes sense. And unfortunately, that's not how it works because you're looking right at these guys. I don't know if there is a blind league or not, but here's what they said. While Gibbs is best known for his receiving ability. Huh? He's a receiver?
Yeah.
His rushing and all-around game still make him worthy of an early round pick. Huh? What are we talking about here? Gibbs is a running back. Best known for being able to catch a pass or two out of the backfield. He's best known for burning guys on the outside and taking it to the woodshed, man. Then he goes on to say that running backs are going to fly off the board early this year. The first two rounds are loaded with top-tier running backs as a few teams enter the season with a clear-cut lead back. Gibbs was number two. Who, in the comments and in the chat, who do you think is number one? Who do you think is number one? What if I said it wasn't Saquon? Would you think? Would you think I'm full of crap?
No, and I can tell you why they think Gibbs is not number one.
Well, it's a shared backfield idea.
He shares a backfield. And that's the only reason they can do that. But they don't know what the share is going to be this year.
Even if it's 50-50, the guy has proven to be the best running back in the league.
Yep.
Well, why wouldn't it be Saquon Barkley after what he did last year? 2,000, what do you have, 2,000 yards of rushing?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, and that's the only person I'd take over Jameer, or even consider taking over Jameer. And there's also different, there's dynasty leagues where you're doing this year after year. Jameer would be the clear pick with having less years on his legs than somebody like a Saquon. But yeah, even if it's just a year-to-year league or if it's a dynasty league, how do you not go with Jameer Gibbs?
Look, I mean, to Eric's point about the shared backfield, I actually like that idea for my guy, knowing that he's going to last the whole season. The hardest thing with running backs from every year in fantasy, I believe, is there's too many injuries. These guys go down way too quick. It's week 1 and you've got 3 ACLs. And your league could be busted if you don't have a guy that, is good to, step in. Forget about the waiver wire. No one's available. So then in some leagues you can't trade, you can't do anything. You're stuck with what you got. Yep. So number one was, I'm sorry, this dude just doesn't belong here. Bijan Robinson was number one. Number one overall player, number one overall running back. Jameer Gibbs, number 2 overall player, and number 2 running back. Saquon Barkley was 4.
Yep.
And the 3rd running back. Go ahead, Eric. What were you going to say?
I'll tell you this. So I'm looking at a site called StatMuse from last year, and it looks at all running backs and what they did in fantasy football. So with fantasy football, you can never take the person who had the most last year and make them the most the next year. It just doesn't work that way. when a running back has an amazing season, they usually follow it up with a season that's not quite as an amazing season because you have everyone trying to stop that person. So usually it's somebody in the top 5 that ends up overtaking first place in the following year. Well, last year, Saquon Barkley had 322.3 fantasy points. He led all running backs by about 5 points. And then 5 points behind him, you have Derrick Henry. And then only 12 points behind Saquon Barkley, you have Jahmyr Gibbs. And then Jahmyr Gibbs had 310.9 fantasy points. And right behind him at number 4, not sharing a backfield, was Bijan Robinson with 30.2 less points at 280.7. You have Bijan Robinson. Do you really think that Bijan Robinson is going to get 50 more fantasy points this year than he did last year to lead the entire league?
Ain't no way.
I'm sorry. Now, do I think that Jahmyr Gibbs could have 12 more points than he had last year? I sure as heck do believe that.
That's like a half for Gibbs.
Yes, that's one play. That's one more touchdown he could have, in a half of 2 games. No problem. A few extra yards, another 100. Do you think that Jahmyr Gibbs could have 120 more yards this year than last year?
Angling to the 15. Gone, baby. 5. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 25 yards.
That's Jahmyr Gibbs. 25 yards in a TD. What does that get you? 9.5 points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, Gibbs, I can almost guarantee Jahmyr Gibbs will have more fantasy points than he did last year.
I think he will too. Go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, with somebody like Bijan every year, even going into the real draft, right? Bijan's this generational can't miss prospect, and he's an awesome player. But they don't have even like a new head coach this year. That would be the thing. Like, the new coach is coming in, they're gonna entirely change things around. They do the same thing with Pitts, their tight end. But as we're sitting here talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm thinking about, and I like it too. It's he's best known for his receiving ability. You remember the Tampa Bay playoff game where Gibbs had that touchdown in the 4th quarter? He got that on a handoff, like a 50-yard run. How about the game against Tennessee last year when he took it, like 70 yards, nobody touched him.
Yeah.
A simple little inside dive, and he went out, and it was incredible speed that he showed. That was on a handoff. So he can catch the ball, but he's not best known. He's not a receiver. He's a running back, could do it all back. And I think you're right, Eric, where I kind of have a feeling this year, I could be totally wrong, but I have a feeling that Montgomery's going to have a little bit less carries even than he did last year.
Yeah.
And I think that Gibbs could easily make up those 12 points or however many points it is. Won't be surprised at all if Gibbs is the highest scoring fantasy player this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he is, right? Just being greedy here as a Lions fan, I hope he is. But the whole premise of today's topic here on this fantasy portion is, how on earth is Jahmyr Gibbs behind Bijan Robinson? All right, great. He's at number 2. But how in the world is he behind Bijan Robinson? I think you guys made some pretty valiant or credible remarks there. Let me pull in. Let me just pull in the sheet. So here it is. This is updated yesterday at 5 a.m. in the morning. Bijan Robinson, number 1. Jahmyr Gibbs, number 2. Jamar Chase, number 3. Saquon Barkley, number 4. Justin Jefferson, 5. Brian Thomas, 6. Ashton Gianti hasn't even played a down in football. And he's 7. What are we doing here?
Wow.
Puka Nacua at 8. Nico Collins at 9. Amon-Ra at 12. What's going on?
If Amon-Ra goes at 12 and not top 10, snag him, take him. He helped me win my fantasy football championship for the 3rd year in a row last year.
He's the most consistent receiver in the NFL when it comes to, you need a play, right? It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Christian McCaffrey at 11. Is the dude even going to play this year?
Yeah, who knows? He should be down in the 20s.
I don't even know if I'd put him there. I wouldn't even draft Christian McCaffrey this year unless he slipped into the 3rd round, only because you don't know if he's going to play. He's got a lifelong injury now. That tendonitis that he has in both Achilles
Yep.
is never going away. So it just takes a little bit of inflammation, and he's down for 3, 4, 5 weeks, just like he was last year. Bucky Irving at 13. Come on, people. Brock Bowers at... All right, look, Brock Bowers had a great rookie year. How likely is it for him to repeat? Not very. You brought in Ashton Gianti now. Look, the Raiders didn't have anybody last year. It's a totally different team, totally different offense. You have no clue how this is going to go down. Why would you put Brock Bowers at 16? Tight ends do not score a ton of fantasy points. If they get 100 points a year, that's a ton, it seems like, for tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put another one at 18 with Trey McBride. Who wrote this? Nathan Janke. I don't even know who this person is.
It's kind of janky.
Yeah, there you go. Ha, I love it.
Can we get the McDonald's drop?
Yep.
I'm loving it.
Janky. Janky is janky. All right, Devin A-Chain. I could see him in the top 20.
Yeah.
I could see him there. Jaden Daniels as a quarterback in the top 25. I mean, okay, Eric, we talked about this off air.
Yeah.
You don't draft quarterbacks until like the very last round or two.
5th, 6th, 7th round.
I thought you said 9, 10.
That's usually when I get mine. I let everyone else take quarterbacks first, because you can pick up a free agent quarterback that's just fine. There's 32 quarterbacks, and usually there's only 12 teams in a fantasy football league. So you got like a 1 in 3 chance of picking up a good quarterback at any time and a decent backup. And a lot of times I don't even run with a backup. I just pick up whoever's available for the 1 week that my guy is on the bye week.
Exactly.
See, I'm not that way. And do me a favor, if you could pull up fantasy points for quarterbacks last year.
Sure, I can do that.
I just seen your message, so I'm gonna send this over to you. And the reason why I'm asking you to do that is because I mean, like in the past, yes, I used to wait on quarterbacks, and we're talking 5 years ago when I was heavy into fantasy football for about 10 years.
It was a lot different.
It was different. Now these guys can make or break a season. If you have a Jaden Daniels last year, oh my God, like how lucky would you have been? But that's not a typical pickup because he's a rookie and you have no clue what he's going to do. A lot of people probably took Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels. I'm assuming, and I know there's stats for that somewhere, but I don't have it, right? But Jared Goff last year, and check your text messages. I just sent it to you, Eric.
Okay. So Jared Goff was number 6 overall for quarterbacks last year.
But where did he rank out of all fantasy points?
Yeah, he was 6th with 385.1, and that's as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah, but league wide, was that not the most?
I don't know how to look at this, but Lamar Jackson was the most for quarterbacks. He was 488.1, and that's because he's a running back and a thrower of the ball. The best just pure thrower of the ball, not a guy that runs around, was Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow had 450 points. Jared Goff had 385.1.
Okay, so in 2024, Lamar Jackson accumulated the most fantasy points overall, 434.4. Gosh, that's crushing it. And that's a PPR league. Jamar Chase led all receivers with 339. Saquon led all running backs with 322. My question is more so, what did Jared Goff do? Like, how far behind was he of Lamar Jackson? So here we go. Lamar Jackson was 1, Josh Allen 2, Joe Burrow 3, Baker Mayfield 4, Jaden Daniels 5. Jared Goff was 6th as far as quarterbacks go. 335 points for Jared Goff. Overall, Jared Goff was also 6th. According to Fantasy Pros, the overall leaders last year was the same order. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, and then Bo Nix Bo Nix might be one of my quarterbacks this year if I don't get Jared Goff.
Yeah, I had him last year, and he did not do so bad for me.
Well, he didn't disappoint at being the 7th overall.
Nope.
So you were going to say something, Riley. I cut you off.
No, you're good. My mind's going a bunch of different places. I was going to point out, I think you'd have been stunned. I would have been stunned to find out. I know he had a good season, but Bo Nix at 7, and this is what I think when we're talking about the principle of when do you take a quarterback, most people, every year in my league, there's a guy that always takes Mahomes with his first pick. It's the name value, but Mahomes was 14. Bo Nix was 7. And Bo Nix was a rookie, so somebody, picked him up on a waiver wire, and then you just replace, or you get what production you can out of your quarterback. But somebody in my league last year dropped Jared Goff, and it took me like 2 minutes to make the switch and pick him up, and then he was pissed at me the rest of the year. And I said, dude, it made watching Lions games even funner from that point on. Again, it's not just because he's Lions quarterback, but he was having a hell of a season.
Is funner a word?
More fun. Did I say funner?
All right, so look, yeah, you did. I'm just messing with you. So Travis Hunter, top 50, hasn't played a snap in the NFL. We have no idea is he going to be a corner? Is he going to be a receiver? Okay, how about Joe Burrow at 53? He led the league last year in the top 5 for quarterbacks, and now you're dropping him down all the way to 53. How about DeAndre Swift? Are we serious that he's even in the top 100? How many points did he have last year? And let's see, where did he rank? Apparently, I need to sign up for Fantasy Pros. But DeAndre Swift wasn't even in the top 7. And so if you do the math, right, what is there? 6? Is there 6 positions in fantasy for offense? 5 positions? Yeah. We got quarterback, running back, tight end, receiver. So I guess there's 4. Am I losing my mind? Is there only 4?
No. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, because most leagues will be a quarterback or 2 quarterbacks, running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end.
Yeah, so there's 4 positions. So even if you go top 7, 4 times 7 is what? 28. So you're saying that even in the top 58, DeAndre Swift somehow he wasn't in the top 7. So 7 times 7, 49. I doubt that he was in the top 9 or even the top 10. So I just don't see it. And my math's not mathing, so just forget what I just said.
Yep.
This list doesn't make any sense to me at all. So don't follow this list on PFF if you want to win your leagues this year. Let's move on.
I definitely would not. Yeah.
That list was created so that you lose. And janky wins, right?
Yes,
that's what it's for.
Just hoping you follow that list. Yeah.
So when we do our leagues, you guys follow that list. I'll follow my own.
Yeah.
All right, kick us off with something here. We talked about the Giants trade. I have a random topic about, you can't have one without the other. We'll get into that in just a moment. TJ Watt rumors. What the hell's going on here?
Oh yeah, let's do that one. What the heck? So I saw this TJ Watt trade rumors, 5 potential suitors as Steelers seek to sign star pass rusher to new deal. Okay. Well, the number one team that they put in this article is none other than your very own Detroit Lions. And this is what they say. Aiden Hutchinson might be one of the best young pass rushers in the NFL, but Detroit has been sniffing around upgrades opposite Hutchinson for a while, taking a flyer on Zadarius Smith last year and reportedly attempting a draft day trade up for edge rushing help. Better yet, they're flush with 2025 salary cap space, possessing north of $40 million that could help accommodate Watt's immediate financial desires and further confirm them as one of the most talented rosters in all of football. I do not think for one red second that Brad Holmes is picking up the phone and calling about TJ Watt.
Well, we know he's not. I mean, it's a pretty simple math problem.
Yes.
A plus B plus C equals, we'll say X.
E, yeah.
The Lions do not have any money after they re-sign and extend the guys that they need to extend in 2026. Matter of fact, if they were to hand out 2 extensions right now to JMO and Aiden, even though that those wouldn't hit until effectively 2027, and if you backload them into the second and third year, it won't really have a big hit until about 2029. You still don't have any money.
You're tapped out.
You're still tapped out. Exactly. It's not going to happen. And if it did, then you better believe the Lions are going all in this year, and they better win, because after this season, we're probably going to lose 3-4 guys that we need to have. It's just ain't no way, right? Ain't no way. It's not happening. I got to bring that soundbite in. Ain't no way. So, TJ Watt, we've been discussing this for a while. Riley, and Eric, both of you guys, give me a pro and a con. Why it makes sense and why it doesn't.
Well, it makes sense because he's an amazing defensive end. Why it doesn't make sense. Let's see. The Steelers play a 3-4, not a 4-3. And then also, you mentioned contracts for JMO and Aiden Hutchinson. What you didn't mention was contracts coming for or extensions or 5th-year options coming for Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are 4 contracts that are going to eat up a massive amount of space. And tell me that Gibbs isn't going to reset the market for running backs.
I hope not.
It's going to have to.
Look, I think that's where the 50-50 shared backfield comes into play. And you know what? Gibbs and his agent are going to argue the fact that, look, I don't need a running mate, but that's just the way of the NFL today. Almost all NFL teams are trying to go to a 2-back system. The ones that aren't, I think that you're seeing a lot of injury and derailment of their season because of it. So having a 2-back system is just smart. But I think that's where the agents are going to argue the fact that, look what he's doing with a running mate. What if he didn't have one? What if he went to a team that didn't have one? And they'd be willing to pay because they're not paying for 2 backs, they're paying for 1.
We also can't forget Brian Branch with, Kirby getting top dollar. What about Branch, who does even more and plays more positions, is more of a Swiss Army knife. Yeah. So, I mean, with all of those contracts coming, you have to save for the future. You have to be a squirrel, and you have to put all your nuts away so you can make it through the winter. Well, the winter's coming, and we know it's coming. It's going to be a bad, bad winter, and we know it already. Do we want to lose half of our team?
Yeah, no.
We drafted all these young players so we can re-sign them and keep them and have a perennial playoff team.
I'll step out of the landmine of nuts. We'll leave that one alone today. But it's going to be it's going to be a bad winter for sure. Riley, did you give us a pro and a con?
No, but real quick, I mean, the pro obviously is the talent. Would love to see it. I guarantee you Brad Holmes would love to see it. I guarantee you Kelvin Shepard would love to have him. Dan Campbell would love to coach him. We would all love to see it. The con is, again, with the contract. And mind you, this isn't Brad Holmes not being aggressive. Brad Holmes has made trades, I think, in every single draft as a GM. Right? He's aggressive. But the way that the roster roulette, the setup of the team is, it would be senseless to go all in, to push the chips all in at this point in time. The con with that, other than the contract, would be, what if he gets hurt?
Yeah.
You give up all these assets, you pay all this money, and then he gets hurt early too. It's and then what? You took your shot too early and missed, and then we're in a position where we're in last year with probably not 15 wins.
Okay. I agree with all that. I know that there's going to be some defensive end rankings coming out, I think today. I think it starts today. So unfortunately, we won't be on tomorrow. But if it does come out and I do have time tonight, I know we didn't do off the cuff last night because I'm busy. But we did a Tuesday morning show kind of in place of that. I'll try to get to it tonight. I've got a full day, all day today before I'm gone for the next couple of days. So I want to try to get to it because and I'm not going to tell you where it's coming from, but it's coming. There's some new ones coming from guys that I trust that are really good at what they do. Next up on the sheet, hard break because we missed it 12 minutes ago. We'll be back here in just a few moments.
1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
Okay, we're back. It's the second hour of the Rise and Grind Morning Show, and appreciate it if you guys have not already. Smash that like button for us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We would love to have you part of the Rockhound family. We got a great community of people in the chat each and every single day. And when the season starts, man, we're gonna have 300, 400, 500, 600 people in these chats every single day. Be part of it, and if you want to be part of the change and help out Rockhound Cancer Foundation, you can find us at buymeacoffee.com/rocked on and get in, man. You can bid on some raffles for jerseys. Proceeds go obviously to the Cancer Foundation. You can also do a straight $25 donation. Of course, you can become a member of the channel, and members only raffles and things like that, giveaways will be happening here July 15th or July 16th. We are going to be doing training camp ticket giveaway, and I would love for you guys to be a part of it. So members are going to get first grabs, and then after that, we'll do a couple of shows just for everybody else to get their opportunity at some training camp tickets. Please make sure you can go. If you can't go, please don't accept the tickets, because there's a lot of people that would love to go. Hate to see them go to waste. Now, we understand things happen, but just make sure that your schedule is at least open. All right, next up, let's get into can't have one without the other. Now, I guess that this topic kind of just came to my mind this morning. You can't have one without the other. Brad Holmes can't be a really great GM if he doesn't have what? Riley?
Super Bowl?
No. Well, okay. We'll go to the next try. Eric, can't have one without the other.
Yeah, you can't have a good GM without a good coach.
There you go. That's part of it. Go back to you, Riley. GM can't be really good and have one without
a good owner.
Perfect. So now we're getting the exercise. Brad Holmes can't be great at what he does unless he has support. Not only the support from Sheila Hamp, but also the guy leading the charge each and every Sunday, or each and every game day, I should say. And that is Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell can't be great without what? Eric.
A good GM, giving him great draft picks and a quality staff.
Partial answer. Riley.
Same thing. Support from the ownership. Confidence from the owners.
I'm going a little deeper with this one. So Dan can't be great at what he does without a great OC, a great DC. Same is going to be said for both of them. A great offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, they're the sum of all of their assistants, right? If you don't have good positional coaches, if you don't have guys that can develop, guys that can teach, none of this works. You can be the best coach in the world, right? Just like if you have a Lamborghini without an engine, it don't run. Great, I got a nice showpiece, but I can't drive it.
Can I come sit in it and get my picture taken?
Sure, why not? $25 a picture. The thing is if you don't have an engine and you don't have the sum of all the parts of that engine, it's not going to run, or at least it's not going to run very well. Now, you could Fred Flintstone that thing all you want, probably not going to go very far, very fast. The Lions have been sprinting since day one. Now, I know that it looked like a crawl from January of 2021 till the end of the 2022 season. But it really wasn't. The Lions began a full sprint about halfway through 2022. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is, we give a lot of credit to Dan and Brad for what they've done, which they've earned. But I think we have to give a lot of credit to everybody else underneath them. But now I want to change the tune here. Ben Johnson still has Ryan Poles. How is that going to work in Chicago? Where so far you haven't seen anything different out of Ryan Poles through the first, 4 years that he's been the GM there over in Chicago. I don't see a relationship there that is where I think that Ben is going to enhance Ryan, but I think Poles is Poles. He's still going to do what he wants to do, and it may not work out for Ben to be able to build what he wants to build. So I'm bringing this up because we've seen it work well, that if you can put two guys together from the beginning that are on the same playing field, let alone planet, with the same ideas, it works. Ben didn't get that opportunity in Chicago. He went and inherited a GM. Riley, I'll start with you on this one. What are the landmines now for Ben Johnson because they didn't match him up with a GM that he can count on, someone that he trusts, maybe someone that he's on the same planet with, same type of plans? What's going to happen in Chicago, short term, long term?
Yeah, you compare and contrast it to what we saw in Detroit, and at the time, it felt like it was going to take a miracle for the Lions to change the culture. And I remember, the hiring happened like a week apart with Holmes and Campbell, and Dan Campbell saying we're going to go into a room and wrestle out and fight, and that's who's going to determine who we draft. And they said, obviously, no, I'm kidding. They were finishing each other's sentences, Holmes and Campbell, right off of the bat, so they had that camaraderie. And as time's gone on, I've really gained an appreciation for. Man, that's how this thing worked. They came in at the same time. What's happening in Chicago between Poles and Johnson, man, Poles' back's against the wall, right? He had to go get his guy. It was like all eggs in this basket. Then they go pay all this money and bring in all these guys. So it's kind of like a one and done. This either works or it doesn't, because if some of these high-priced free agents aren't playing well, you're kind of out of luck, right? Whereas if you draft players, you can say, okay, they're still developing. We're still nurturing and building this culture. So I think, with Chicago, man, it's there's pressure. Maybe not this first year, but all those high price free agents they brought in, those guys better be playing well, or they're going to start to feel like we've made a mistake. And the quarterback better be playing well. Otherwise, they're going to wonder if they drafted the wrong one. So it could be some situations with the roster, and then Johnson feeling like I need different players, and Poles saying I gave you the best players possible. Why are you not coaching and making it work? So there's pressure there to succeed, I think, early.
Eric, same thing for you, man. I mean, we've now seen Ben Johnson. Well, we haven't seen anything yet, but Ben Johnson succeeded at a high level in Detroit. How much of that was Dan Campbell? How much of that was Brad Holmes surrounding him with good players? How much of it was culture? Big shout out to Art Vandelay. We will definitely watch that interview. And how much is it just the guys having the same plan, or maybe even starting with the team from day one? So I guess give us a rundown of your thoughts of Chicago right now.
Well, Chicago, here's the thing. I've always thought that Ryan Poles is this off-the-handle GM that brings in all of these wild free agents. He way overpays, he overspends, and one of these days it's going to catch up to him. You can't kick the can down the road forever, and they are going to be up against it in the next few years. They're going to have times where they're having to cut some of these really high price free agents just so they fit under the cap and they can sign their rookies. Ryan Poles has done some very, very strange, odd deals over the last 4 or 5 years, and even the coaches that he's picked have been some very odd picks for coaches, and just did not work. And I think it is going to catch up to them sooner than later. And I think this whole Ben Johnson hire was a last gasp at air for Ryan Poles, because I think he was on the edge of being fired. I really think that the ownership in Chicago said, well, what are you going to do? You just lost your coach who didn't know how to call a timeout with 40 seconds left in a football game that you could have won with a field goal. And he's ruining this brand new first overall pick rookie that we picked this year. What are you going to do? What's your plan? And he must have came up with some really good plan to fool this ownership into thinking, hey, maybe he does understand what's going on, and let's give him one last shot. So, and I think that one last shot was Ben Johnson. So this better work out for him, and I think it better work out for him pretty darn fast. If they go 5-12 again this year, Ryan Poles might not make it to next year.
I'm glad you kind of brought that perspective into it. Like the last 20 seconds here, talking about Ryan Poles, and the opportunity is at the door. Really, someone's knocking. Who's going to come in? Well, it's Ben Johnson. Is Ben Johnson going to breathe life back into Ryan Poles and give him an extra opportunity to maybe last a couple of more seasons in Chicago? I think that Ryan Poles has a couple of outs this year if things don't go well. Well, Ben Johnson's a rookie head coach. Didn't expect much, right? That's going to be excuse number one when they go 5-12. But to the point here is, I think that Ryan Poles is probably on his last as well. I think that he's been on the hot seat, and now they have an opportunity here. I think that Ben Johnson's probably going to cry to the ownership and say, look, get this guy out of here. I need someone that I can work with. If they fail this year, I 100%, my take is this simple. Ben is going to go and want to get a GM. It doesn't usually work that way, right? Usually it works that way in the beginning. I think that Ben Johnson would have had a better opportunity going to, Vegas or Jacksonville or somewhere where he may have had an opportunity at getting a head, or I'm sorry, not a head coach, a GM that he could have worked with from day one.
Right.
And I think that's the issue in Chicago, is these guys have to learn each other. On the surface, it looks like they have a great relationship. On the surface, it seems like things are working out. But I'll say this too. The offensive line, I think a lot of us were shook when they bring in Dahlman and they bring in Tooney, and they bring in all these good athletes, good football players. But it's still kind of a hodgepodge. Like, I think Tooney is going from guard to tackle, if I'm not mistaken. I think he played, I'd have to look. It's one or the other, going from tackle to guard or guard to tackle. It's just not a good situation, I think, brewing in Chicago. I still think their offensive line is suspect. I still think Caleb Williams is going to have some trouble this year. And that's on Ryan Poles. Instead of drafting and developing, you go out and buy players. It doesn't work. We've talked about it a ton here. But to wrap this up, you can't have one without the other. The Lions did it right. They did it right by putting two guys in a chair in the same room, right? After the fact, but they hired these guys within like 24 hours of each other. They had good conversation of who do you want to work with, right? They kind of made this match perfect behind the scenes. Chris Spielman was involved in that, finding the right people to pair together. I don't think I've seen a better GM coach situation in my lifetime, at least in Detroit. I don't even know where you could point around the league that there's this good of a relationship. Any ideas come to mind? None really come to mind for me.
None.
Well, see, I don't know the GMs of most of the other NFL teams. We know Kwesi from Minnesota, and
that could be one right there.
And the guy that we ran into in Green Bay there at the draft, I can't remember his name. We ran into him in the hallway at Lambeau.
Oh, Gutekunst?
Gutekunst, that's it. Yeah.
Goots?
Yeah.
Yep.
Gutekunst and old LaFleur, So maybe those two teams, I would think, have some pretty good, but I don't know when their GMs and their coach. So Kwesi and O'Donnell, they came in together, didn't they, at the same time?
I think Kwesi was there first.
Kwesi was there first. Okay. I'm not up on my Vikings history, but those two seem to have a pretty good, back and forth with each other.
I mean, I guess if I were to throw a couple of names out, I would say that Brett Veach and Andy Reid, pretty solid in Kansas City. Pretty solid relationship. I think that they're both on par with each other. Les Snead and Sean McVay, I think that they're in the same boat rowing together too. even John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, a little bit unorthodox, but I think it works for them. But Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, I think it's a good relationship. I don't know, to your point, who was first, but it works, right? And again, I think that's part of finding the right people to match the. I don't think that Chicago put more into this other than Ben Johnson's the hottest candidate. Let's bring him in and see what works. We've got, what is supposed to be the best young quarterback in the league. Maybe he can do something with him. I guess to a lesser extent, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. I don't know about that one.
The Rams one's good, but I think with the Lions, it's so unique because, and I could be the case with the Rams too, but for the Lions, it was the first time. Well, Campbell had head coaching experience, but it was like an interim thing with Miami. It was a first time thing for these guys, right? Where Reed and Veach in Kansas City, Reed had success in previous stops. But I love the concept, Will. It's such a great idea and subject because what's the better hire? Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes? It's like, man, you really, I don't want to have one with that. You need them both. You got to have them both. And the fact that they work and are so compatible and genuinely, I remember Dan Campbell saying at his opening press conference, this is going to be egoless. And I think Brad Holmes said the same thing. That's so easy to say at the press conference. Like you're talking about Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles, the vibes are really good right now. What are they when you're 1-5?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you weather the storm, at that point? If we were to rank GM head coach pairings, this will be a video later, by the way, because I did put some thought into this. But if we were to rank them, I would say that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes they're definitely in the top 5. I'd probably put them in the top 3, to be honest. And I would say Brett Veach and Andy Reid are probably in the top 2, only because of how they've operated over the last decade. I mean, it's been pretty incredible in Kansas City. I don't even know if it's been 10 years for them yet, but Kansas City's been doing a lot right. I think since 2017 or 17, I think.
Yeah, that's when Mahomes really took over, so it had to be somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So I got a little nugget for you guys.
All right.
The longest tenured active head coach and general manager duo in the NFL is Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tomlin's been the head coach since 2007, and Khan became the general manager in 2022, although he had previously worked with the team in other capacities. So that is the longest right now.
Wait, hold on. So Khan wasn't the GM though.
No,
only since 22. So really the longest is Lions then.
So that's 2022 till now. So it would be the Lions.
If you're talking a direct GM and Lion, or GM and coach pairing, but I get what they're saying. Khan was around the team for a lot longer.
Yeah.
I get it. But all right, next up, go ahead, Riley.
No, I was going to say to your point, Will, on that, if Chicago, if it gets muddy, who are they going to side with? They're going to side with Ben Johnson, right? Because he's the first-year coach. If one of them has to get let go, like you're talking about, if Ben Johnson goes to the front office, like, get this guy out of here. Yeah, Ryan Poles is banking on success for sure. Needs it.
I would say so too. All right, before we move on, anything from the chat popping out? So it's hard for me to keep the chat open because I'm trying to manage all these screens.
Yeah, Jay Cruzen says Dan and Brad top 5. Let's see if there's.
Darius Smith put one in here. Sirianni and Roseman. They can't miss right now either. That's another good one.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going, Z-Dog? Or is that where you're headed to? Is you going to the Eagles?
Let me throw one more out to you guys just to kind of get your reaction, because I think this one might be, kind of not on the radar for most people.
I'll be back in 30.
Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. That might be like the worst ever.
That was the most challenging time for me. I remember every Sunday, my friend Jack could attest to this, that I'd be talking to him every Sunday night like, dude, I can't. It's not just that they were losing. I chose the Lions as my team because they weren't a winning football team. But it was so different with those guys because every post game would be the same. It was so trite and it was so repetitive. And Matt Patricia would always say from that standpoint, and I just got to coach it better, got to, teach it better. And it's like, are you ever going to start doing that? Anyway, not to bring up bad, sore memories for everybody, but
yeah,
how far the Lions have come, man, with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, especially relative to Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
Art Vandelay says Millen and whoever. So Marty Morningweg, Rod Marinelli, and whoever was the worst. Yeah. Well, Marinelli went 0-16, but at least he went on to be a defensive coordinator for the Cowboys for 10 or 15 years after that. And
so we've talked about it a lot. I know, Eric, with you kind of having the little bit of a break, and I don't know if you and I have had the opportunity to discuss, but are you optimistic with Morton and Shepard? I know you. I know you're a glass half full kind of guy always, but are you concerned at all about the drop off with Johnson and Glenn out the door?
No, not one bit, because you have the players here that have already been in the system for 4 years. You have a system that's been set up for 4 complete seasons. It works. Why change what doesn't need to be changed? And all they're doing is calling plays. They're not calling different plays. If they are, they're just putting in little wrinkles. For the most part, I'm going to say 95% of that playbook is the same verbiage, same everything, but they have to change everything every year. So it's going to be learning new keywords, new phrases, that kind of stuff. You are not coming in having to learn a completely new system. Right. And that's where so the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator in 2023, and they fell off the map. They went 10-7, whatever it was. And everybody's linking us to, hey, look what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, they had 2 new coordinators that brought in 2 new systems. These guys are not bringing in a brand new system. These players like Jared Goff, Alex Anzalone, these guys run these systems. They know what it is. They know what the plays are. They know what to do. They just got to get the rookies up and going. That's it. So for me, I don't care who's calling the plays. It doesn't matter to me. That part, the OC, DC, I don't think that really matters, because all they're going to do is put in some little wrinkles, and that's fine.
What did I miss? Because I see some things in the chat about Riley. What pot did you stir?
Right before you stood up, I said, let me throw this one out there as far as coach and GM duos. And I said, Quinn and Patricia. That led to us just talking about some painful memories, because how fortunate we are now to think about. That wasn't that long ago, but I still have those horrible memories of post-game press conferences and Patricia just saying, I just got to coach it better, teach it better from that standpoint. Same thing every week. Same comments, same excuses, same, and then we were talking about, Morton and Shepard taking over. That was such a good topic and idea. Will, you can't have one without the other on that. And now that song stuck in my head, the Married with Children, I think it is.
Oh my God. Yep. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So Eric, you brought up this topic and then I added something to it. Again, kind of a good pairing here, I think, of topics. Biggest red flags for the 2025 NFL contenders. Start with the Lions, and then I'm going to throw my piece in there, and then we'll just see where else it goes from there.
So this article by CBS Sports, they talk about like 10 or 12 of the contenders. I mean, playoff teams from last year. And they're giving up like their biggest deficit going into this year. Like, what's the biggest red flag going into this year? And this is something that Riley and I were just talking about. Okay. And this writer, this is what he had to say about the Detroit Lions. And he said that the staffing shakeups is the biggest red flag for the Detroit Lions. If it were up to Dan Campbell, the Lions probably would have just run it back on the coaching staff. Instead, the beloved leader is set to enter 2025 without 2 of his right-hand men in Ben Johnson and the aggressive play caller of Detroit's all-star offense, and Aaron Glenn, the rah-rah spokesman for the defense. After both coordinators landed top jobs of their own, Campbell's fiery touch is still evident as the Lions enviable skill talent, but weathering such a dramatic shift in sideline personnel is easier said than done. Just ask the Eagles of 2023. And that's what I was just talking about, how the Eagles in 2023 went to a brand new system on offense, a brand new system on defense, where that's not what's happening with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are bringing back the same offensive system, the same defensive system. You have a coordinator in Kelvin Shepard who has come up through the ranks teaching this same system for 4 years. And then Johnny Morton, who was here in 2021 or 2022, I can't remember. And then now he's back again. So 21. He knows this system as well. And he was one of the people that helped put it in. So it's not, they're not reinventing the wheel here. They are just taking the same offensive and defensive plays and putting them out there. Now, they're going to have to change the language like they always do every year. Every coordinator does it. And they're going to put in some new wrinkles, which every coordinator does every single year. But are they going to reinvent the wheel? No, they are not. So I think this is going to be a much smoother transition than people are giving credit to the Detroit Lions.
So 2 things, and then I'll throw my piece in there. Number 1, do you think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to leak the playbook again?
I think he may have learned his lesson last year, taking pictures in the meeting room.
I'm still betting that was done by design. Real. Yeah. And then you were talking about the Eagles and the fact that they lost their coordinators in 23 and then they added another one in 24, Kellen Moore, I believe. Ended up winning the Super Bowl. I don't think that this is news, but the NFL plays have pretty much been the same for about 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
The plays are all the same for the most part. You've got a few wrinkles, right? A couple of different things that you're doing, pre-snap, post-snap, but 11 personnel is 11 personnel. And the Lions run about 75% of their plays out of 11 personnel, just like a lot of other teams. So it's camouflaging it, right? It's calling it something different that makes the play different, but it's really not different. Everyone runs the same stuff. It's just who you're doing it with, really, when you're calling it, and how they're calling it at the line that I think makes a difference. So if I'm not mistaken by this was CBS Sports put out the staffing shakeups as the biggest red flag for the Lions.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What's funny is The Athletic also put something out, and this was called What We Learned from the NFL Offseason Workouts. One key observation for every team. And this is a staff article, so I can't pinpoint it to anybody. But I read this yesterday, and I'm like, and then I saw your topic come in, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect, right? Because we can look at 2 different views and who's right, who's wrong, right? Maybe we can, I guess, decipher this a little bit, but I thought this was a good take. So it says, Dan Campbell's new look coaching staff looks the part. The Lions took it easy this offseason, canceling minicamp, with the team starting training camp early because of the Hall of Fame game. I don't understand that. I don't think they had to, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure they could have still had minicamp. Why did Dan give these guys so much time off is my question. I hope it doesn't come back to bite us. Anyway, it goes on to say that many of the vets were absent or excused from OTAs as the result of canceling the mini camps. And the coaching staff was in full force, and the main takeaway after watching and hearing from them is that they're all Dan Campbell guys. So the first part of this is just stating that obviously it's a different look, but they all look the part because they all look like Dan Campbell guys. All right, that's good to know. Then it goes on to say that the important part of this is that the team lost key pillars in their coordinators, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. But their replacements, Calvin Shepard and offensive coordinator John Morton, have long-standing ties to Dan Campbell and can effectively echo his message, which I think is critical, right? That you have your 3 pillars, coach, OC, DC, all on the same page. Other than new faces on the staff, other new faces on the staff have crossed paths with Dan Campbell or joined the Detroit Lions because they know what he's about. It might take time to come together, but it's clear that Campbell has assembled a staff that knows how to work as one. Now, that was written by Colton Pouncey. I ad-libbed a little bit. So, two differing opinions. One article or one statement saying that a big red flag is the fact that we lost our coordinators. And then this one is saying that they look good. They look like Dan Campbell guys. They look like they're on the same page. Looks like a well-oiled machine. Could take a little bit of time, but Dan knows how to put together a coaching staff, I guess is what I'm pulling from this. And we shouldn't have concern. My main argument with all of this is Calvin Shepard. Calvin Shepard has been with this team now since 2021, right? He's been with Dan well before this. And Calvin knows this defense better than anybody. And I think he's going to be just fine. The offense has been led by Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and others. Now Jahmyr Gibbs. That offense knows how to run itself without a play caller, in my opinion. I think that they could run this offense without an offensive coordinator. You could give Jared Goff full autonomy to call all the plays at the line, and I still think it would run just as well as it has in years past. Now, some of the crazy plays that have been called, some of the trick plays that have been called, maybe Jared wouldn't call those all the time, but I think that they would be uniquely used at times of emphasis in a game. I'm less and less worried as the season gears up here to get rolling. Training camp is around the corner, and that's when we're going to first have a really great look at what this team is all about. Am I teetering on the edge of a cliff when I say that I'm not worried? What do you think? Eric, we'll go to you first.
Hell no. This is going to be such a smooth and easy transition with these two new coordinators. It's going to blow people away. And I think we're going to come out of the gate screaming. I don't think we're going to have any drop off whatsoever. I don't think we're going to have this acclimation period. The only thing that could stop us is some of these injuries that are going to linger into the season. So that's like Malcolm Rodriguez, Aleem McNeil. How is Hutch going to look going into the season? All these players that were injured last year, how are they going to come out of this? Wingo, how is he going to look? Is he going to make it back for training camp? I doubt it. He's another one that's probably going to be halfway through the season before he makes it back. So some of our depth pieces and one or two starters, that's the only thing that kind of scares me. But other than that, I think coaching wise, we're ready to go.
I would agree. I want to hear from you, Riley. What do you think? Let's compare and contrast the two arguments here and your take.
Yeah, I think like where you ask, are you teetering on the edge here? I think it's fair to be a little bit, cautiously optimistic, I guess is how I'd say it, because there is pressure to perform. The offense was so good last year. And I think, Eric, you're right. The thing that you love is that you've got the players that run the plays coming back. But if it's not going as well off the bat, there may be some kind of anxiety setting in, right? If the defense isn't playing well, then Shepard might have, maybe he's just better as a position coach. So I think it's fair to be considerate of maybe this does have some adversity. Maybe it doesn't go so well and what that would look like if not. But certainly you love that you've got the players to run the plays on both sides of the ball, the majority of them all coming back.
I'm probably overly confident, but you had mentioned, Morton being here previously. That was 2021. I'm sorry, 2022. Didn't he work? He didn't work with JMO. So I think it was 2021. It was 2021 when Morton came in. He kind of helped get this whole thing set up from the very beginning, prior to Ben Johnson becoming the offensive coordinator.
Yes.
And after the Anthony Lynn experiment, failed, That's when Ben got his shot. So I would say that the fact that these guys have longstanding relationships with each other, number one. Number two, this is a little bit lesser known of a fact, but Shaw and Morton have been best friends for over 20 years, working together in various capacities on and off the field and at various, institutions. So again, I think that lends to the credibility that these guys are all unified some way, somehow, on or off the field, whether it's with the Saints or the Dolphins or the Lions or Stanford or wherever. These guys have all worked in some capacity, it seems like, together. And we still have, we lost 12 assistants. I guess I would be more worried about the positional coaches if I was worried at all. I would be more worried about the positional coaches. Okay, so you bring in Tashard Choice. He has history of Jahmyr Gibbs from years ago. So there's a relationship there. There's a trust there. Casey Rogers, one of the better defensive line coaches. I think he's going to excel with the Lions because of what he's given. But working under a guy like Todd Bowles, it doesn't get much better than that when you're talking defense. Maybe Robert Salah is another guy that you want to learn from, or Salah. I think that, again, that was a huge mistake for the Jets, right, to let that guy go. We watched the Jets completely collapse. But there's very few guys that you want to learn from to learn how to do things the right way. Todd Bowles does things the right way. That defense has been insanely good over the last few seasons. Missing some pieces, sure. But Casey Rogers has been a large reason why, the Buccaneers gave us fits. 2 of our lowest scoring games against the Bucs should tell you something. So, and it's not just about the players. It's about the philosophy. It's about the scheme. It's how to utilize it. It's when to utilize it. When to put your guys into, certain positions of success and to win. Look, I think that they have the right guys to do it. I'm excited about this season. I'm less and less and less worried as we get closer to training camp. But then I think that gut is gonna turn on me once we get to training camp, if we hear any bad news at all. But I've got to see it for myself. So there was news about Hendon Hooker, and Hendon Hooker looking the same in early OTAs. It's early OTAs. The guys don't have pads on. Who gives a shit what they look like in spring, right? I want to see how these guys look in July. That's the most important thing. I think Hendon Hooker's going to be fine. But let's finish out this last topic on Hendon Hooker. What is the most important camp battle for this season? Before we do the final, Riley, what position would you say that it is?
Man, it's a great question. I would say what's the offensive line going to look like? But I kind of feel like that's going to be Graham Glasgow to start for reasons we talked about on Monday. I think everything else is kind of lined up and the depth chart's almost set, maybe in the secondary on defense, but yeah, there's no position battle where I feel like this starting job is really truly up for grabs. Okay.
Eric, what do you think is the number one positional battle this year?
Number one positional battle for me is guard. Who is going to be the left guard? Who is going to be the right guard? Is Ratledge going to be our center? Is Graham Glasgow going to be our center to start the season? I have a feeling that it's going to be Graham Glasgow starting the season at center. And then you're going to have Tate Ratledge that is going to play a lot of center in preseason. And you're going to see some really big fights for guard in the preseason. Is it going to be Giovanni Manu? Is it going to be Tate Ratledge? Is it going to be Mahogany? Is it going to be Frazier? Is it going to be one of these other players that we've brought in? So you have Owasaka, you have all these other guys. You have a lot of depth right now because we have 91 guys on the roster. And I really think that our biggest shakeup of any position this whole season is who is going to play guard and who is going to play center. So those 3 positions in the middle of the line.
So offensive line is where you think it is.
Yeah. So those 3 positions, left and right guard and center.
Yeah.
But I think center is pretty well sealed up. I think it's going to be Graham Glasgow.
I mean, obviously that's where I think it's going to be too, is Graham. I think probably is the future, or potentially if he plays better than Glasgow, which I don't see really happening for a guy that hasn't played center before. But anyway, for me, when we look at positional battles, when you're coming into the season, I think that you're looking at a few different angles. You've got wide receiver, right? Or you have wide receiver because Isaac Tesla comes in, Tim Patrick, a holdover from last season. That's going to be a camp battle. TK85, I don't think he's on the roster, right?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he is. At the bottom end of the wide receiver room, here, let me just pull it up. The bottom end of the wide receiver room, you have Khalif Raymond and Dominic Lovett. Dominic Lovett, very early in the season, I said, had the fastest feet that I've seen in a long time. And again, it's just OTAs, but that's where you get to fine tune or look at some of the things that these guys are doing that is not pad related. You don't need pads on to show me your feet, right? You don't need pads on to run a route. You don't need pads on to catch a football, but you do need pads on to actually do all three and make sure that you can do it with pads on. I get that. But his feet, some of the best footwork I've seen in a long time. And I could be totally off base with that. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Tim Patrick, those are your starters. Your starting three for me. So you've got a big battle with Isaac Tesla and Tim Patrick and Dominic Lovett and Khalif Raymond. And I think those three players round out the next three. TK85 looks like he is on the depth chart right now, but the Lions have 11 wide receivers on this roster currently. Jackson Meeks is somebody that I could see, earning his way up this depth chart, but I don't think the Lions are going to keep 7 receivers. I don't even know if they're going to be able to keep 6. I hope they keep 6, but I don't think they're going to be able to. So I think that's a huge camp battle trying to get from 9 or 11 to 5. That's a big battle for me. Tight end, not so worried about. I can't believe that we have Zach Horton on the depth chart, or did, as a fullback. I can't stand the fullback position. You guys know how I feel about that. Use a linebacker. Keep an extra linebacker. Keep an extra tight end. Forget about a fullback. Then, offensive line. Yes, huge battle on the interior. Huge battle. I think the outside pillars are known. The inside, a little bit lesser known. I'd rather have Graham in the middle so that we don't have rookies on an island together. But then when you look at the defensive line, again, another huge camp battle. You've got about 14 guys, 15 guys, 4, 8, 12, 16 guys trying to make 9 or 10 spots. That's a big camp battle. But my number one camp battle, I think corner is probably it for the second string. Another big battle there, right? Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin. Those are guys that you want to see make this roster, but how are they going to beat out Morris Norris, Lawrence Strickland, Eric Hallett, Dan Jackson, 7th round pick? Dude looks the part. A lot of camp battles everywhere. This whole roster is deep. This whole roster has a lot of issues, but there's one area we didn't talk about, and that was the quarterback position. Is this a camp battle or not, Eric?
Not really. You're going to see a lot of Hendon Hooker and Kyle Allen in preseason, and
we only have 3 quarterbacks on the roster.
Yep.
So how could it really be a battle is my question.
Yeah, not really. But you're going to see a lot of those too in preseason, and it's going to work itself out on who our backup quarterback is, which is Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker is going to get all the second team reps, and he's going to get a lot of the first team reps in preseason. He's going to be the first one to march out there in the first preseason game, and he's probably going to play most of the game for all 4 of the preseason games. You're going to get to see a lot of Hendon Hooker, a lot in these 4 preseason games. And I doubt you're going to see much of Kyle Allen unless it's just mop-up duty or they've seen enough.
They'll probably split halves, I would assume. I mean, Hendon's probably going to get a little bit more time, but I would think that they're going to split halves at least in the 3rd and 4th game. They'll probably split.
Don't you think that Hendon will be out there with more of the starters?
Well, yeah, of course he will. But I think a lot of the starters probably really won't be in. The Hall of Fame game, I think, is going to be the extent of the work that they get. And that's, I mean, last year when I was at the Hall of Fame game, didn't really see a whole lot of starters.
No.
So it'd be interesting to see, how that works for them. But you had an article or you had a topic on camp battles. So that's what I was looking for here.
Oh, let me see if I can find it here. Most compelling. Oh, let's see.
It's curious to me that they're saying that the backup quarterback position is wide open. I would have thought for sure Hooker has that thing locked down by now. But
I would say that that's always going to be. I mean, Kyle Allen has good, history in the league so far. A lot of good experience, and it's going to make it interesting. But look, Hendon Hooker's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
right.
So this is what they had to say. Hooker Allen is the battle to watch. Forget the battle for starting center. Tim Twentyman thinks the competition between the two signal callers fighting to remain on a roster will be the one to look for if you're a Lions fan clamoring for any football rivalry content ahead of the 2025 season. And this is what he had to say. Hooker is heading into his third season and second full season looking to earn the coach's trust and prove he can be the guy, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs too. Hooker was Goff's backup during the regular season last year, but the team opted to sign veteran Teddy Bridgewater to have more experience behind Goff for their playoff run. Allen has started 19 games over a 7-year career with 62.7 career completion percentage, with more touchdowns, 26, than interceptions, 21. Will the Detroit Lions opt for more experience behind Goff? Both Hooker and Allen will have the benefit of 4 preseason games and not the usual 3 to show that they can do and earn the job. What do you guys think?
It's Hooker. I mean, Kyle Allen has a big opportunity, but I don't see him overtaking Hooker, and I'm not worried about Hooker in OTAs. I'm just not. It's so early in the spring that none of it really matters, right? They're just throwing balls around, and yeah. Oh yeah, it's 10 o'clock. All right, we'll see you, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up this last thought.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's super simple. Hendon Hooker's not going anywhere. And when I looked at another article by Tim Twentyman and what they feel, the best position groups are to watch, it was interior offensive line. And Tim Twentyman had said that, will Glasgow replace Frank Ragnow at center, or will he return to his natural right guard spot? I think that Glasgow is going to start at center. Obviously, our second round pick, Tate Ratledge, has been repping at both spots. We'll see where he lands. He also talked about Christian Mahogany, repping at left guard, which again, I think that's where he's going to end up being, whether it's starting or backup. He'll be at left guard. Will he win a spot, as a starter, or will it be Miles Frazier? We don't know. Or will they take a shot at Manu at guard? We have no idea. But you did hear Brad Holmes allude to that, during the spring. Danny Rogers thinks that it's cornerback. That cornerback, again, the room has been flipped upside down with new names, and the outside positions and nickel aren't completely locked down yet. Terrion Arnold is the only mainstay coming into the season. I'm curious to see where Ennis Rakestraw, DJ Reed, and Khalil Dorsey fall into the rotation. This one's a little bit more simple to me. I think it's Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed to start. So to me, that's not news, right? I think that's just going to happen. Brian Branch and Kirby staying at safety, I don't think that's news. That's just going to happen. The only spot in the cornerback room that I believe is up for grabs is the slot. And Ennis Rakestraw, as we know, is going to stay on the outside. So we know it's not Ennis. So who's going to be the slot guy? I think it's Avonte Maddox right now. At least right now, until we get into camp. It's going to be Avonte Maddox. So the editor's pick, interior offensive line, according to Lindsey Miller, is where the biggest camp battle is going to be. I think it's probably going to be the biggest camp battle outside of outside of wide receiver, but we'll let you finish it up. Riley, what do you think?
Yeah, it's, as we're talking about the depth chart, it's just unique to be in a situation where you kind of know all the starters, right? You know who every starter is on this team, and that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing that you've got situational players like Amik Robertson or Avante or Ennis Rakestar, whoever these guys are going to be that are just taking snaps situationally. Those are good football players, great situation to be in. But yeah, not a ton of intrigue as far as, man, how's this going to play out? I think you kind of know the ones across the board on this roster.
All right. It is a holiday week to finish out the week, man. Do me a favor. Make sure that you guys stay safe over the next few days. Please dial a ride, call a friend, don't drink and drive. I'll be up in the Fremont area, so God forbid you need some help or something. You guys can always dial the show phone. I'll leave it on. So if I'm up in Fremont, you need a ride somewhere because you've had too much to drink, call me. I'll take care of it. Be safe, man. Be smart. Enjoy it. Celebrate America the right way, which is staying alive and being able to celebrate it when the big celebrations end. Do us a favor and send us in your mailbag questions. More than likely, I mean, obviously we're not going to be on tomorrow or the next day, but do us a favor and at least send us some mailbag questions. So when we get back in, which should be Saturday or Sunday, I'll probably do something. But I'm jam-packed with things to do around the house here. So when I get back, I got a couple of things to do. But I do want to get in and do something probably this weekend and just kind of recap everyone's weekend. And kind of like Eric said yesterday, he was afraid of the fireworks. For some of these guys, going out, blasting off fireworks like J-Mo does. Just stay away from it, J-Mo. Please. We need your fingers, man. Who was that lost his fingers? It was the New York Giant defensive lineman.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Golly. And he only had like 2 in a nub or something like that after that incident. We don't want to see those things.
Yeah.
Like hire somebody to do it for you.
Right. Or just get the poppers that you throw at the ground.
Yeah, those are so fun, Riley. So fun. I used to put them in. No, never mind. I'm not going to say it. All right. So yeah, please have fun this week. Enjoy America. Celebrate it. Another year of a tradition. Big celebration, man. It's nothing better than being an American. I'll tell you what. Having the freedom of being able to jump on a microphone and talk about football. There's not many countries that just happens in, right? Your freedom of speech doesn't exist in everywhere. So I'm super thankful that we are here and that we do have the rights that we do and the freedoms that we have and those that have put their lives in harm's way to make sure that we have them. So to all of the service members, first responders, doctors, nurses, everybody that has helped this country and shaped this country, and again, put their lives on the line. You know who you are. I don't know all of the veterans that have served, that are in this audience, but I do know one, and that is Trace. So Trace, this 4th of July is for you, from me, because you obviously were putting your life before everything else and serving your country. And so I appreciate you for doing that. And to all the other service members in the chat, you know who you are. I appreciate you too. Riley, give us your final 30.
Yeah, your thoughts were kind of where mine were as well. I was going to say, obviously, thanks. Another great show, everybody hanging out with us. But go in the show, post-show, guys, if you're watching, and if you hear something you like, you can timestamp it. Timestamp it, leave your comment. I know Will and I'm sure Eric does too. We like to go back and read those after. We like to hear from you guys. We like to get your opinion on things. And, I hope everybody has a safe weekend, just like Will said. And just be kind to people, man. It goes such a long way. Echo my also heartfelt gratitude to Trace and to everybody in the chat that's served and all those great things there. So I hope everybody has a great Wednesday and a great holiday weekend, and go Lions.
1000%, man. Go Lions each and every day. I know it's kind of hard to talk about the Lions every day and not talk about all the other sports, but next year, when this channel takes its next growth step, we will have we will have a lot more things to talk about and a lot more people to talk about it with. So if you're looking for something to do, if you're interested in sports, if you're interested in doing anything content related, please reach out to me. Again, you can just email mailbag@rockdown.com. Again, get your mailbag questions in, because from here on out, we're going to be doing mailbags on Wednesday, at least on Wednesday, probably change that day as we move forward. Tuesdays and Thursday nights, we'll be doing off the cuff after the holiday break. And why not just finish with a little bit of fireworks to end the day here. Anyway, appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys when we get back. America! Internet!